Hello, my peeps, and welcome back to Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves. It's the new year, it's 2024! And I am still your host, Ike. And before I get too more excited with the special news I have to share with you, I'd like to just take a moment and say thanks for being here and giving this pod a listen. It means a lot to me that you chose to use your precious time and give me and my guest your ears. Now, if after all this awesomeness of this episode, if you still have the wherewithal, it'd be really cool if you share this with someone who you think would like it. Or just subscribe yourself if you already haven't. That'd mean a lot. And if you want to tell me what parts of the show you are passionate about, perhaps some new things that peeved you off, or just say hi, you can always reach me on Twitter at LikeIkes and via email at passionandpeevespodcast@gmail.com. So, new year, new pod, actually. This is going to be a bit of a change, as you'll soon hear. Kind of mixing things up, trying some new things out, somewhere between keeping it fresh and seeing if we can innovate, just, for creative purposes and whatnot. Let me know if you like it or if you hate it. I always do check the comments, I check Twitter, I check my email. Please let me know what you think, good, bad, or otherwise. Also, Xmas, or the Happy Holidays, or Christmas, however you want to say it, has come and gone, as last year also has. What'd you guys get? Anything cool? I hope so. Hope you avoided the family fighting that was one of the last shows that I finished last year in The Bear Season 2. Great show, would highly recommend, but that show, and like many people's, I ended up finding myself on Reddit and seeing a lot of people kind of didn't have a great Christmas. There was infighting. They had a shitty family member, parent, friend, loved one, whatever. Hope that wasn't y'all. I luckily had a pretty darn good Christmas. Got to see my brother, my mother, and my father. Got to spend some time with them. Got some great Christmas gifts via my mom, yet again. She continues to knock it out of the park. Thanks, Mom. For those of you that don't know, she makes me, as I play way too much Magic the Gathering, she makes me tokens for those games that I get to use and show off. With the family, got to actually go see a movie that I've been wanting to see for a while, The Boy and the Heron, the newest Hayao Miyazaki movie. It was very, to use an artistic word, contemplative. AKA moved like molasses, and not on a sunny Sunday. It definitely took its time, so if you're into think and just look at beautiful colors, I'd recommend checking that out. If not, avoid it. It is great, but it does take a bit out of you, literally, in processing it and also just watching it. It moves rather methodically. Things that didn't move methodically was this week's episode with someone I've known for a while. His name is Julian. I met him through a friend, and he's a fantastic artist and just an amazing person. And I don't think I really have much else to share. So without further ado, take it away, past me. All right, folks. Tonight on the pod, we have someone who's a self-certified snake wrangler. He's mastered and practiced the art of luring others into dungeons for over 5 years and has gone off-roading in a Prius and lived to tell about it. It's the one, the only, my man, Julian!
Hey, what's up?
Welcome to the show, my friend.
Good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on. And, last year we've been kind of messing around, asking a bunch of fun, lighthearted questions and then getting to the meat of the matter. But this year we're just cutting straight through the fat. Julian, what is your passion?
I like making things. And that's a really, really broad answer because
It is.
it covers a very wide range of media. So I'm a creative writer, and that covers everything from prose, fiction, and writing Dungeons and Dragons modules and adventures, that kind of thing. But I also am I draw a lot, so uh,
Very well, last I saw.
yeah, digitally and traditional, painting as well. I paint miniatures too, um, and I do a lot of crafting. I like to recycle stuff that I find that would otherwise be thrown into a dump, and I like to turn it into art and other terrain and stuff like that. That's just kind of a brief overview of the things that I make, but those would be the main categories.
When did you first get into this? Like, when did you find yourself? What was the earliest memory or earliest experience of really taking something and making it your own, or making more of it, or kind of playing God and coming up with something from scratch?
Um, yeah, my earliest memory, I would have been very, very young. Um, I don't know the exact age, but I remember I was gifted. It might have been for Christmas or my birthday. It was like this like build your own like pirate's chest pretty much. So it you basically
Oh,
got to
cool.
build this pirate's chest out of wood, and then it came with a bunch of like crafting tools to like customize it, paint it, do whatever you want. And it was just such an unusual canvas for my creativity that it just kind of like sparked my imagination, and I kind of like realized, wait, I can do anything with this. And you know it
Was
it
this
kind of spiraled.
before or after school? Not like during the time of day, but like, was this before you started like really going to school, like
Yeah, this was
pre-kindergarten or
before, way before I started going to school. This was very, very young.
Wow.
Yeah.
So after having such a great gift that you enjoyed so much at such a young age, how did you find, creative writing or just English classes or art, especially art classes, going into grade school?
Art classes were great. Um, yeah, I wasn't really into writing um, early on. I think I had a lot of trouble kind of putting my thoughts to the paper. But yeah, I would always thrive during any sort of art class. I infamously took 4 years of art in high school, even though you probably only needed one to graduate. But
Like, this
if
class
I,
is sweet.
yeah, if I ever had a free art period or anything, I would be hanging out in the art room.
How were your parents supportive, or kind of, I don't want to say absent, but what did they do in regards to this? Were they, about it? Were they kind of, lukewarm to the vibe, or were they, hopefully not, but against it?
No, I wouldn't say that either of my parents were terribly against any of my creative endeavors. In fact, I would go as to say that my mom was pretty influential
Oh,
uh, in encouraging me to continue.
was she also an artist, or was just she
No,
just an appreciator
definitely
of the
not.
arts?
No, definitely not. I wouldn't even say she was an appreciator of the arts. She was a
Oh, she was
she
just a great mom.
yeah, she was a good mom. She's a had a lot of medical training, so that's kind of her background. But no, not really too involved in the arts, I would say.
Walks into the walks into the hospital. You are my canvas. The patient's like, what? Did you have many brothers and sisters, or were you the focus of all your parents' adoration?
I had one older brother. I'm the youngest of two.
Mm. Was he also artistically inclined,
Not
or
at
was that
all.
not at all? You just got
No.
all the gifts. You stole them all for yourself.
No, no, my brother's incredibly intelligent, far more than myself. But I definitely was a little bit more of the craftier, creative person of the two of us.
So starting off pre pun intended, maybe preschool, you were great at, or not great, but very fascinated with this kind of artistic creative expression outlet. When did you really think you were good, or like not necessarily good, but you're like, oh, you're different, or excelling in this? Like, when did you notice your kind of skill level, or like enjoy it in a way that someone that's a master of something would?
Um, yeah, probably, kindergarten, first grade, I would say, is kind of when I realized that, hey, I kind of spend a lot of time doing this, and as a result, I'm probably a little bit better than most people at this. But I think it was the very first time I viewed Star Wars: A New Hope. That was game over. That was like in kindergarten, and it was like, okay, it's all science fiction and monsters and aliens from now on. So yeah, I was kind of obsessed with like monster design and creature design for a very, very long time.
When did you make your like first monster or first painting independent of? Because I mean, like the first thing you said was like this treasure chest, which is it does allow for expression, but there is kind of like a roadmap, right? You know, there
hmm
is a, all
hmm
right, do this, do that, and you can you can do these colors or. But when was the first time that you sat down without instruction and really made something that you were like, I made, like had ownership over, maybe even named it or wanted it framed or put up on the fridge or whatever?
Yeah, I don't really know that there was a specific instance that I can recall. This was very long ago, but
Oh, you're
uh,
not four?
yeah. I don't know. I think, like I said, after I was exposed to Star Wars for the first time, it was just like, okay, what else is out there in the galaxy? And it was just like, yeah, that's
After
where I went.
being shown Star Wars, were you interested in, kind of either drawing characters that you saw or drawing characters that were it like could be in the universe? Did you make your own characters? Did you
Oh, yes,
draw their
definitely.
characters?
Definitely, yeah.
Which one did you do more of? I'm curious.
Uh, Probably more my own. Yeah, I would probably just say probably more my own, but that's not to say I didn't,
Yeah.
draw the recurring characters.
I mean, how can you not?
hmm
Darth Maul is just so damn awesome.
Yeah, for sure. I remember when I was a very young boy and I didn't have it spoiled for me in was it 1999 when it
Mhm.
came out? So yeah, I was like my jaw dropped when those two, the first lightsaber and then the second lightsaber gets ignited. It's just like, yeah, completely blew my
Oh
mind.
yeah, he was like, oh, you can do that. I thought it only came out one hand.
hmm
uh, so going along, doing that, watching Star Wars, getting fully enamored. How did that affect you as a student? Were you still, did you find time to get good grades, or were you the art student who's just, getting C's to like move on to the next level?
I was definitely like in a firm like B plus kind of kid. I've always been very uh, brief when I speak, so most I've gotten better at it. But I never really went the extra mile. I would always just do just enough so that I could maximize my own free time and do whatever the hell I wanted.
And that's good enough. All right, here you go. Time to go back to drawing lightsabers.
hmm
Was this a confrontation point for you or your folks, or were they kind of like, nah, bees are good?
Um, no, I don't think they really. I don't think they were ever really minded that I wasn't like a all-star student like my brother was. Um, because obviously they could see I was busy doing other things.
He's got
It's
his
not like,
crayons out, Harold. He'll be fine.
yeah, if I was just barely gliding by and and then on the other side just slacking off and playing video games or something, yeah, they might have had
Yeah.
something to say, but I was clearly fully utilizing my time.
It sounds like you grew up in a pretty like accepting and open-minded household. Is there something that in this environment growing up that you believed in that you look back on, you're like, all right, I know I was little, but holy shit, what the hell was I thinking?
You mean as far as like, like silly things that kids believe?
Yeah.
Um, hmm, I don't think I have an answer to that one. I really don't. It's just coming up blank for that one. But yeah.
Just a smart kid. He knew what color the crayons was and that they didn't taste good from the get-go.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know that I held too many like inherently silly beliefs.
All right, well,
I was
let's
always
check on that. Who is
okay.
your favorite character in who's the best character in Star Wars?
Oh man. Uh, are you asking younger me
I'm
or
asking
current
younger
me?
you. Yeah, I'm asking younger you. Let's see how not silly your beliefs were, huh? Let's test that theory.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of precluded it with the whole Darth Maul thing, but yeah, no, Darth Maul definitely one of my favorites. And as an adult, it's been very satisfying seeing him being developed as like a recurring character, not just some
Yeah, just one
mysterious
off.
villain
Yeah, yeah.
with barely a couple lines of dialogue.
Did you ever draw yourself as a Star Wars character?
I don't think I ever did, honestly. I never really thought about that.
Childhood wasted.
Yeah, no,
If you had, would you have drawn yourself as a Sith or as a Jedi?
um, I probably would have drawn myself as neither. I probably would have drawn myself as like some like smuggler or something.
See, you're the Han Solo type. All right, hotshot. All right.
Yeah, I mean, I love Jedi, Sith, great, but I don't know. I just never really was like, oh, I wish I was a space wizard. I don't know. Just seems a little bit, I don't know. I don't
It's a
really know how to
bridge too
explain it.
far. I mean, come
Yeah.
on. I can carry a gun, but lightsaber. Uh, how did you ever kind of lose interest with Star Wars, or once you got started, it's stayed a constant for you?
No, I can't really say I've ever lost interest in it. It's certainly like fallen to the into the background of life, with
Sure.
when there's like large time gaps where nothing interesting is being made. I definitely lost interest when the sequel trilogy came out. Um, but I think that Disney has done a decent recovery after that major flub.
So one of the things that most of us, especially in the United States, have to do growing up that takes away from the time of, sitting, drawing, thinking about Star Wars, maybe even writing about Star Wars is occupations. Growing up, what was your first like job? Not like doing stuff around the house or anything like that. What was the first thing where, you worked for someone else?
I worked at a corking plant, sorting corks. That would be the very, very first job I ever had.
I'm sorry, how old are you? What year is this? Corking plant? What's
Yeah.
what is a corking plant? Is this like for corks that would go in a bottle of wine?
Yeah, precisely. Yeah, anything that requires a cork, there's plants that produce corks, and they need some amount of quality control or sorting.
So you were just like kind of paint us a bit, because like the idea that's coming through my head is that you're standing on like a conveyor belt and just kind of like glancing at them as they pass by.
Oh no, it was more like here's a gigantic enclosure full of corks. You need to sort through them and
Don't drown.
yeah, exactly. It was like a ball pit, but with corks. But yeah, basically grabbing those, inspecting them, making sure they're the right type and not something else, and sorting them into bags by various amounts.
So are you like are you climbing into it like it's a ball pit, or are you standing outside of it?
No, I'm standing outside of it,
Okay.
reaching into it.
And how many corks do you think you went through a day?
Uh, that's a very good question. It was a very long time ago, probably a couple hundred.
Okay, so it's not, you weren't like churning through them like super quickly. You were just kind of being
No, I was really young too, so I was
just
getting like,
marveling at the corks for hours.
yeah, probably getting paid well below minimum wage. Who knows?
I mean, how like yeah, the overhead can't be like that slight. The corks.
Yeah.
Do you remember like what was that job? You go after school? Is it just weekends?
No, it was like a seasonal thing. Like I
Oh,
do
okay.
it for maybe
Cork
three,
season.
2 to 3 days, you know, every year or so as
Oh,
needed.
okay. That's
But
cool.
it's not like a regular job. I believe
No,
that was the very first one.
that's awesome. So you're going along, drawing, watching Star Wars, working the occasional odd couple days a year at the Cork factory. Along this time, growing up, so much of our adolescence, I found anyway, driving along, listening to what eventually will be oldies or, like the rock of the 90s or whatever like that. I will hear a song that transports me back to being on the bus with Stephen Amick driving around rural Nevada. Like the second I hear probably any Blink 182 song that I know is Blink 182, I immediately am transported back to my childhood. Is there any songs that you hear now that bring you back to those hopefully fond days?
You're asking like if like stuff I hear like on the radio, like that transports me back, or just if I'm
Just
just listening to something.
it doesn't matter where it's coming from. You can have it on a playlist or otherwise. But is there a song that kind of encapsulated, your adolescence?
Um, yeah, I would. Hmm. Yeah, I was. I didn't really get into music until like high school. Um,
You're spending all this time drawing, and it's just completely silent in the background.
yeah, I mean, my parents kind of introduced me to music through like Elton John and the Beatles, so I'd probably say the Beatles is
Okay,
definitely would bring me back to my childhood. Um, as far as like things that would
that's
bring me back to
awesome.
high school,
Yeah,
I definitely got into music again through electronics. So any Daft Punk song or Dead Mouse song would instantly transport me back to high school.
freaking sweet. So you go through high school, you're working all this art. You said earlier you did an art class basically every year or every opportunity you had. After high school, how did your love of art affect your trajectory, educationally speaking?
Well, I definitely went to college for art as well, so yeah, it definitely affected it that way. And yeah, it's interesting because um, though uh, I went to college for art, but I did graduate with a degree in design because I college was an interesting experience, and it definitely was a rough time for me creatively because it was like I was now being told by other people what to create, and
Oh,
and not given a lot of like room for personal expression. And it also kind of made me realize I really just do not play well with others when it comes to creative matters. So that was kind of a rough time for me, and I kind of would say I fell out of love with art for a good couple of years after I graduated. But um, I think probably Dungeons and Dragons did a lot to kind of bring me back into that creative spirit.
it's so interesting because I mean, I don't know that but as many listeners know, I went to film school and graduated with a degree kind of more centered around writing, like script writing. And for me, instruction was liberation because I no longer had to figure out what I was going to do. It was presented to me as like, okay, cool. Like here's this vessel fillet. Okay, now I know what I need to do. And it kind of calmed my mind as opposed to letting it just run off the edge of the plate. But if I'm understanding you correctly, the way you best interact with art is that is to be formless and to let your mind kind of create its own, you know, uh petri dish from there to grow the idea.
Yeah, that's actually a excellent way of phrasing it because I generally approach art in a very scientific way, which is sounds really, really weird to approach art in a scientific way, but it's kind of how my brain works, is to, look at this as a problem to be solved. And yeah, a lot of the instruction was receiving wasn't really very conducive to that. It was a lot of procedural stuff that um, wasn't really taking me in the direction I wanted to go. And like I said, I don't really play well with others when it comes to my creative vision. So yeah, that was a little frustrating for me.
So before I let it go too far along, you said you approach art in a scientific way.
Yeah.
I can you break that down because I have no idea what you mean by that.
I think it's just how deliberate I am, and how much I look to other people that know what they're doing. If there's some creative problem I can't figure out, I usually uh, will drop what I'm doing and look to see what my creative betters how they would do it, and that can often inform how I approach a creative problem. But other than that, I think it's just how deliberate I am, and um, I like to figure out systems that work creatively and what doesn't work creatively, and I can kind of create my own, almost like a flow chart of creative activity of like how to solve a creative problem.
So if I'm kind of understanding and kind of interpreting, that's not a word, interpreting what you're meaning when you say scientific way and you don't work well with others, it sounds like you don't like to be told what to do and that you like to kind of figure out what is going to suit you best.
Yeah, I
Okay.
would agree with that. It's definitely a process for me creatively, and it requires a lot of trial and error. Um, and oftentimes the conclusions I'll reach will, not be what other people would do. And in a like an educational environment, that can be very challenging when you're told that what you're doing isn't necessarily correct or even good.
So do you not? So for a lot of artists out there, especially in this digital age, a lot of independent artists kind of survive off of commissions. Is that not something that you would be therefore well suited for, or is that kind of like a different animal altogether?
Yeah, yeah, it is an entirely different animal for me. I have an interesting relationship with commissions. I definitely do thrive in when someone commissions me and kind of tells me to do whatever I think is cool. That's probably the best, the most conducive for me. But I generally uh, don't really spend a lot of my time doing commissions because for that very reason, because oftentimes people will be very specific about dictating what it is exactly that they want.
Yeah. So even though there was a lot of, you went to school for art, but you kind of fell out of love with it, this is generally time a lot of people, I don't want to say find a mentor, but a lot of people end up hearing good advice. Sometimes it's from professors, sometimes it's from cohorts, sometimes it's from a guy at a McDonald's. During your time at school, or maybe even before or after, is there a piece of advice that you got for your passion or for some other aspect of your life that has really stuck with you through all these years?
Yes, absolutely. And that is that um, anything, any art that you make, any creative project that you undertake, it should always be for one person, and that is yourself. Um, if you are not making art for yourself, I would go so far as to say is that it's kind of a corruption on your artistic vision to, kind of pollute it with um, someone else's intention.
Hmm. It's very interesting. So, sorry, go ahead.
No, that was it.
Okay. So, as you said, you don't really like to work with others. However, if you got the opportunity to work with someone in this field, collab with another artist, would you? And if so, who?
um, I definitely think there's not a lot of people in the I would say visual art world that I would be too eager to collaborate with, but as far as like creative writing and game design, there's a lot of personalities that I look up to, and I would just absolutely love to work with someone like Matthew Mercer, Matthew Colville, Justin Alexander, those kind of influential people in the tabletop role playing game community.
So, kind of along these same lines, what do you see as being your dream involvement with, artistic creation, whether it be, physical, visual, or, uh, you know, words?
Can you repeat that? Sorry.
Yeah, I kind of got a little lost in the sauce there. So, for a lot of people, they, especially when starting off, they aspire to do their passion as their occupation. Some people, kind of live long enough, learn long enough that either the money's not there or they want to stay in that kind of hobby space so that they can continue to kind of enjoy that their interactions with it. But either when you started or perhaps now, what would you say your dream involvement is with this passion of yours? Like, what do you want it to amount to if you could control the dice, so to speak?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it definitely, as I've gotten older, I've definitely realized that it it needs to sit firmly in the hobby space for me because, like I said, if I tried to pursue something as a career in the art world, I would definitely um, just kind of bounce off, like I was saying earlier, other people's intention, kind of influencing my artwork and my creative vision is kind of a horrid idea to me. So I definitely prefer to keep it in the realm of uh, of a hobby, but that does not mean that do not have goals as far as where I'd like to take this. Something that I've been looking to do for a very long time has been to publish my own uh, tabletop role playing game module and adventures. Uh, I've got a backlog so long of just creative writing work that needs to be condensed into a presentable format. But publishing my work would definitely be probably one of my biggest goals in that regard.
Hell yeah. So whether it's working for it with role playing games or just visual art, there are many fantastic terms and secrets within an industry or a workspace. What would you say is your favorite industry secret or term that's only used by people of you and your ilk?
At least within the design community, Kemming.
Okay.
It's spelled Keming, Kemming. And basically, it's kind of a pun because it's referring to the word kerning, Kerning. And that
Okay.
kerning is the spacing between letters in typography.
Hmm.
So, kemming is when your kerning is very, very bad.
I kern too far. I can so much. What?
But
That's
yes,
such a
basically,
nerdy thing. I love that. That's
the
so
R
great.
and the N fuse together to make an M, and you're left with kemming.
That's so great. Oh. So often in movies and TV shows, they do their version of something. Whether it's being a police officer who never does paperwork or, being, I don't know, a bouncer who apparently never needs to go see a chiropractor. For artistic expression, how do you think they show it correctly or incorrectly or both? What are some great examples that have stuck with you over viewing and seeing the artistic expression in film and television that have popped either one or the other way?
Um, I think media generally hits it fairly well on the head.
Oh
Um,
wow.
at least in recent years, it's been pretty honest with the fact that, you know, if you're an independent artist, it's kind of a you're constantly rolling the dice because you're basically at the mercy of the universe, whether someone notices you or doesn't.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's kind of a polarizing thing where it's like either no one's heard of you or everyone's heard of you. Um, but I think there are some interesting spaces in media where artists kind of are depicted, I guess, as like these just hardworking individuals who, you know, oftentimes will just labor in obscurity until the rest of their lives, you know, constantly being tortured by the fact that, you know, people may never see their stuff. But um, yeah, I would say it's fairly spot on.
Does that notion of obscurity cause you fear or give you drive in regards to your work?
Um, I would say more drive than anything. It doesn't really cause me fear. I have no real fear of being obscure. I'm not exactly a terribly social person, so uh, some would say I thrive in obscurity.
But it's
um,
not something like if you ended, and I do not wish this for you or anyone, but if you ended, you know, if you're, as you're, you know, kind of not laying on your deathbed, but, you know, you're in retirement age and nobody knows, nobody's heard of you, you know, your work didn't go anywhere in the public eye, would that bother you? Or would you be like, I mean, it was basically for me from the
yep.
get-go?
Nope, you're exactly right. It was all for me. Um, but as I've gotten older, I've realized how important it is to share my creativity because I can inspire people with it, right? So I
Mm.
think tabletop role playing games has definitely uh, helped me a lot with being comfortable to share my creative work and really try to extend an olive branch creatively out to other people to, you know, see what they can do.
It's very zen of you, sir.
Thank you. I take
So
that as a compliment.
as you should. That was lovely. The way of kind of like it was almost like you're in. It's like if I was your insecurities, I threw this fastball and you just like, you know, Tai Chi the shit out of it. It's like, and it doesn't bother me. I was like, that's supposed to hurt. You're not supposed to fucking home run that shit, asshole.
All right. What were you saying? uh,
So while we're kind of on the notion of the end, for whatever that means, after all is said and done, how would you like to be remembered?
I think I'd like to be remembered. It's kind of a weird analogy, but as an oasis. I want to be remembered like an oasis.
That's fucking lovely.
Because, you know, life's hard, right?
Yeah.
But if I can give someone even an ounce of shade or water, something to keep them going, right?
Yeah.
If I can inspire them in some way, some to anything, no matter how small it is, right? If I can if I can convince them that life's worth living and that you need to keep moving forward, like I think that's how I'd want to be remembered.
Fuck yeah. That's so good.
Thank you.
Initially. So what I gotta say, why I'm kind of giggling, because I'm not giggling at that. That answer is serene. But your initial answer was, I'd like to be remembered as an analogy. I was like, I don't get it. like, uh, so to kind of bring it back down to earth a little bit, what is when you are working on a project, and maybe this is too, maybe they're too different, but if you can, what's a day or what's a week in the life for Julian as an artist? How does it break down for you? Is there any kind of consistency, any through lines?
Oh no, there's absolutely no consistency at all. I'm terrible at organizing my creative projects. I usually have like anywhere from like 3 to 7 ongoing at the same time, and it's kind of up to myself to pick them back up and continue working with them. One of my favorite quotes that I heard recently is that um, no artistic project is ever it's never finished. It's just temporarily abandoned. Yeah.
Temporarily abandoned. It's funny that you say that, because that was a mantra in my screenwriting class, was that it's never finished, it's only due. I'd never heard a kind of a different way of looking at that, which is, it's never finished, it's only temporarily forgotten. That's so great. So do you let the kind of, I don't want to make it sound like you're a child or anything like that, but do you let your emotions or your whims or like the breeze on a day decide what you're going to work on, if you're going to work on it, and for how long? Or is there no kind of consistency with when you sit down and work, how long you work? Is it all just, the roll of a dice?
Yeah, it pretty much is. It's whatever's exciting me at the moment. I follow that dopamine wherever it takes me.
So if this is not your, if it's in this lovely, beautiful place where you get to, play, make, create, be Dr. Manhattan on Mars, if you will, what pays the bills for Julian?
Uh, what pays the bills is, well, right now, currently, I actually sell artwork. Yeah,
Your own or others?
other people's.
Hey, I mean, at least you know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
So many,
yeah.
so many art vendors clearly are just like blowing, blowing smoke. So
Yeah, no, it actually does help with the job because I have a firm artistic vision, so I can pretty easily tell someone what I think about it, what I like about it, what makes me excited about it, and hopefully, excites them too. And maybe they'll want to buy it. Who knows?
No, it sounds like you're authentic and honest though in that space, and like it's not like one of the thoughts that kind of worried me when you initially said that was that it was working in a space that you are not yet and feeling incredulous, but it sounds like you get to work with art and be, a all not too far distant from the people you're selling to, and get to kind of like mentally consume it. You get to look at all this art and appreciate it for what it is, not, necessarily buy any of it, but, help other people find a piece of art that you hope they'll like, and just, get to be a fan of art working with art.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely agree. And there's also can be zero amount of jealousy or envy for me in my current line of work because most of the artists are dead.
I'm still living, bitch. Later, nerds.
Yeah, I mostly
Try rolling
sell
better than a zero, asshole.
I mostly sell antique artwork, so yeah, it's a lot of
Just the classics.
historically significant pieces. And that is another thing I love is history as well. As I've gotten older, I'm kind of turning into the history buff dad.
So, what would you say is the biggest misconception about art by the wider world, whether it be the kind that you work on or even the kind that you sell?
Yeah, I would definitely. I kind of briefly touched on this, but it's definitely the fact that that the most widely heard of and lauded artists are somehow the best artists, and that's not necessarily even close to the truth. Some of the most amazing artwork I've seen roll through the gallery that I work at has been people no one's ever heard of. You go to look them up online, and there's a maybe a Wikipedia stub, not even an actual article on who this person is. There's, yeah, uh, that's pretty much I would say the most wide most
Oh,
misconstrued part of the art world is
yeah.
that the most well-known people are somehow the best artists out there.
Did you ever, by chance, see Exit Through the Gift Shop?
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
I did go through my Banksy phase in high school when I was just obsessed with stencils and that kind of artwork and street art. So yeah, I do
Well,
love that movie immensely.
what you're saying reminds me of the ending, and sadly, slight spoilers as I am trying to make a point. For those of you who haven't seen it, I'd still recommend going and seeing it. But the way the movie is shot, if my memory serves me correctly, is that it's about this guy who doesn't know about graffiti art, is just this insane camera nerd, and like just records everything ever. He just can't ever put his camcorder down. And he ends up kind of learning about the graffiti culture, especially here. I believe he's in Los Angeles, where I currently reside. And he falls in love with it, goes around and starts shooting a documentary. But as the documentary starts to come to an end, he's running out of money. And so he sees this opportunity and starts making his own graffiti art just as a way to make money, and figures out how to produce himself. And he does it as like Dr. something, or something nonsense, but it's completely inartistic. It is the way I remember viewing it when I watched this movie. Obviously, mileage may vary. But what one person thinks is art, that another person is likely to think is trash. It's completely valid opinion as far as I'm concerned. But in that way, so many people heard of him. So many people bought his stuff. Like he makes, at the end of the movie, as I recall, he makes millions and kind of sells out and does his thing. And it's just like, I don't want to say he's a nobody, but he's a guy that did it. It was just a cash grab for him.
Hmm.
That's like the only reason he does this at the end, is because he's going broke. He's like, how can I make a lot of money to pay for this?
Yeah, yeah, and that kind of touches back on the fact that even if you're well known, doesn't necessarily mean you're a
Yeah,
amazing artist. You know.
exactly. Just because like there's a reason there is an occupation called producers, right? And like so much of that is just like getting the news out there about your client, whether it's for a movie, whether it's for an artist, whether it's for an actor or whoever. And like, if you can produce yourself, that doesn't mean your product is better than, if you have a great producer, it doesn't mean your product is better than somebody else's. It just means that your producer is better than somebody else's, or
Yeah.
it just clicked right.
Hmm.
Regardless, it does
Exactly.
seem to be like a lot of variance. So
Yeah.
to to skew away from the kind of hard to swallow pills, what is your favorite non-obvious aspect to art and just the process of creation?
I think it's mainly just the amount of time you have to sink into it. It's people kind of view artists as like these wizards that, they're born with this artistic ability to just make whatever pops into their head, and that's just couldn't be farther from the truth. It's like any other skill out there, and it requires a tremendous amount of time and a lot of trial and error. So
Yeah.
much trial and error. You'll make one good drawing for every 20 that you do when you first start out, but as you keep going, maybe it's now one out of every 10, and maybe now it's one out of every five, and maybe now it's just every other drawing's pretty damn good. And yeah, you just got to level up.
So you just reminded me of one of my favorite quotes when it comes to like skill like that is I don't know if this is real or not. It doesn't fucking matter. But this lady's in Paris, and let's say Van Gogh. I don't think it was Van Gogh, but let's say it's Van Gogh. Some famous artist is there, and he's just doodling on a napkin. And as he gets up to leave, he throws it in the trash. And the lady comes up behind him and goes, "Oh, kid, I'd like to buy this." And he goes, "Okay, $20,000." She goes, "Fuck, it's a napkin. You were gonna just throw it away." And she's like, "You just drew it in like 5 minutes." And he's like, "No, I drew it in 20 years in 5 minutes. What you're seeing is the end result of my skill through all these years. You're not seeing what, all the, the failed nights and days of, standing over a canvas, just ruining it, and finally getting a masterpiece. For me to get to the skill level to be able to just casually draw this thing that you love has taken me a lifetime."
Yeah, that's a really good one. It definitely encapsulates kind of what I was talking about. It definitely reminds me of I'm totally misquoting this, but there's Pablo Picasso said, it'll take you a couple years to learn how to draw, and an entire lifetime to learn how to draw like a child. Because that was his style, was drawing like a child, being in touch with that part of yourself. And yeah, and it takes a lot of time to get to that point where your expectations of your skill match your taste, your taste in art. And yeah, it takes a long time.
Well, to move on from the beautiful to balderdash, Julian, my friend, what is your preposterous peeve?
My preposterous peeve is advertising. I hate ads with a passion. Um, yeah, I've walked out of entire conversations because someone tried to advertise to me before.
What do you mean
um,
advertise to you?
I sometimes used to go to a lot of like cons and conventions, and I vaguely remember someone was like trying to promote their independent literature, and I don't exactly remember what they said, but they were like, "Hey, is a tale of this and that, and the hero does this and that. Is that something that interests you or inspires you?" And I look at him and I just say, "Probably," and then I walk away. And honestly, his work was probably fine, and I probably would have enjoyed reading it, but that was not the space my mind was in at the time. And oftentimes I I really just bounce off of advertising because it feels like such an invasion into your mind space, to try and kind of force these ideas to latch on into your mind. It definitely feels, I don't know, it feels dirty to me and disrespectful.
Is it the fact that it's kind of like trying to sneak up on you, like it's almost trying to like and not incept you, but it's trying to like it's trying to like kind of lure you in, where if they like if he had walked up and said, "Hey, I'm trying to sell this thing, can I pitch it to you?" Or like if he was a little bit more upfront as opposed to being like little, you know it sounds like he was kind of trying to draw you in with the way he was giving that speech. Does that make a difference, or is it just the act of trying to be something sold something is
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah. The act of even trying to sell it to me or increase my awareness of it is enough to make me just bounce off of it. Whereas it's funny because if someone, were to approach it in the completely opposite direction and just like speak about the merit of something, I think that would resonate more with me.
When did you first notice this becoming an issue for you? Were you like sitting around watching cartoons or whatever like that on Saturday morning, and like, the Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs came on and you just threw your cereal bowl at the, the the old boob tube, or
Funnily enough, I actually didn't mind advertisements when I was young, and I think the reason for that is because advertising has just changed so much. Back then, they would have entire, art directors and art departments for these kind of advertisements. They would do full on claymation and just go to all this effort to make this brand, this cohesive brand with these visuals, and it the effort behind it, it didn't go unnoticed for me. And I don't know, nowadays everything's so targeted. It's more like you're constantly getting hit with a shotgun of just random stuff, and maybe you might be interested in 1 out of 100 ads you see, but it feels like there's so little effort put into advertising these days that it feels very disrespectful that you're gonna go to all this effort to invade my brain space and then give me some AI garbage.
Yeah, so the problem is they're not artistic enough.
Yeah, pretty much.
The artist is annoyed at your inauthentic artistic.
Yeah, and it's also just they're loud and invasive and usually require me muting something or walking out of the room.
So your least favorite of all time then probably has to be what is it? What's that one? It's like apply directly to the forehead. Apply, like, what's that? There's that stupid one that just tells you what to do with it.
Yeah, head on, apply directly to the forehead.
Head on, apply directly to the forehead. Head on, apply directly to the forehead. And all it says is like 5 times, and then the ad's over.
Yeah. Honestly, that kind of ad is so avant-garde that I think it gets a pass. It's so absurd.
They just go head on into
Exactly. You have to admire that kind of direction in an advertising scheme, because it was just so new for the time. Something like that to just whack you over the head and be like, it kind of became its own meme.
Yeah, it's like the guy who goes into a job interview and goes, "Hire me," and they're like, like, "You should hire me."
Exactly.
What are your qualifications? Don't worry about it. Just hire me. This guy's got chutzpah, I tell you. I don't know. I like him. So what is your all-time least favorite either interaction or advertisement? What's the one that is top-tier douche fame?
Oh, yeah. It just happened to me the other day. It was a new level of scummery I've never seen in the advertising business. I had gone to the theaters with my wife, and we were going to watch The Boy and the Heron. Fantastic movie, by the way. Highly recommend. But they had changed the pre-movie, the pre-rolls that they run before the actual feature. So usually at the theater I go to, they'll have like a 10-minute like kind of ad-infested bit where I can just, be on my phone and completely tune it out, right? Yeah. And then, the actual previews start for the features that are upcoming, right? And I know that's when I need to put my phone away and pay attention, because some of these might actually interest me. But they had the ad bit had run, they had just started to roll the previews, and then they started sticking ads in between the actual previews. And I felt like walking out of the theater, because it was just so, it was just on another level. I'm just like, you have violated the sanctity of the theater by doing this. This is unacceptable. And not to mention that all the ads together, including the previews, ran for about like 35 minutes past the actual like indicated start time on the ticket, right?
It's a bit much. Yeah,
it was gruesome, and definitely will make me reconsider visiting that theater again.
You hear that? Beep. You're not gonna get any more of this fine gentleman's money.
Nope.
All right, before we throw it to our commercial break and prep you for said upcoming lightning round, if you could have listeners of this podcast hear one song of your choosing, which would it be?
It would be, well, there's a lot. And I would, I'll spare you the horrible mashups and the hard sound, but I would go with the United States of Eurasia by Muse.
Sweet. Well, we're going to throw it to our ad break. And when we come back, Julian is going to enter the lightning round.
My body is ready.
This podcast is sponsored by Irrationally. One of the easiest things you can do with your hands in a light source in a dark room. Over human history, millions of people have used Irrationally to great enjoyment. With limitless possibility and no upfront costs, Irrationally will have your hands busy forever. Or until the power comes back on. So what are you waiting for? The power to go out? Oh yeah, right. Okay. Well, but when it does, we'll see you and your rational puppets on the wall. And we're back. Julian, are you ready to enter lightning round?
The lightning round.
I am.
All right, well, buckle your seatbelts and keep your arms inside the ride at all times. Julian, is there a price for you to give up your passion forever?
No.
Make the food or do the dishes?
Make the food.
Did you ever cheat on a test in school?
I want to say yes.
All right, well, you're having the best day of your life. What happens next? Another amazing thing or something terrible?
I would think I would take the amazing thing. Let's keep that ball rolling.
Do you create your own thoughts or do you just listen to them?
I would say both, but mainly I think I make my own.
Is professional wrestling cool or lame?
I think it's pretty cool. It's got its own unique vibe and kind of melodrama.
Album, shuffle, or playlist?
Album.
Is there such a thing as a perfect piece of art?
No, because it's never finished.
Have you ever had a crush on a cartoon character?
Absolutely.
Are you out of touch or is it the children who are wrong?
I'd say I'm probably the one out of touch.
Would you rather have tentacle arms or kangaroo legs?
Ooh, tentacle arms.
I could draw so many things!
Yes.
Are hot dogs tacos?
No.
Would you rather meet an alien or a ghost?
Probably an alien.
Skydiving or deep sea diving?
Deep sea diving.
More colorful.
Mm-hmm.
Do you read in the bathroom?
I do.
Is karma real?
Yes, but not in the way you'd think.
To get a song out of your head, do you listen to the song or listen to a new song?
Listen to a new song.
Do people who prefer Pepsi to Coke deserve rights?
Yes. Yes, they do.
Do you pee in the shower?
Absolutely.
Do you live to work or work to live?
I work to live.
Would you rather your first kiss have been next to a dumpster or in the middle of a pig pen?
That's a really interesting one. I think the pig pen. I'd like an audience.
I'd like an audience. All right, closing it out. Could you eat 37 of your favorite food for $5,000 in a 1 hour time limit?
Definitely.
All right, well, congratulations. You've survived the lightning round. Woo!
Pew, pew, pew.
Now, before we move on, I, like many listeners at home, would like to now know, what is your favorite food that you could eat 37 of in a 1 hour time limit for $5,000?
Haichu.
Yeah,
candy.
fair enough. Cheats McGeets. Or even individually wrapped, that totally checks out.
Hmm.
I know, I checked with my lawyer, he says.
Actually, I'm pretty sure I have done that IRL. Once that first one goes, it's like it's the rest of the packet. There's no stopping it.
All right, now as a reward, my gallivant guest, I grant thee a lightning round question of your own to be echoed until we get bored of it. What you got?
My question is, do people have an inherent duty to help other people?
If it's a yes or no question, which it is, I would say yes. But I do have like some stipulations because I do think that like there is to what length, right? Is like where my brain goes.
Exactly.
Like, like yes, if I see somebody, hanging off a cliff for dear life, do I have, if I can do something without putting myself at risk to save them? Yeah, like if I need to just press a button to save their life, yeah, I owe that to them. I have an inherent duty to do that. But it's like I don't have an inherent duty to put my life on the line to save someone else. I don't think that's fair to ask of everybody. But it's like, yeah, I think to a degree.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's a mostly yes for me as well. And I wanted to congratulate you because you officially have the good alignment.
Yes. You see, Mom? Told you I was a good boy. All right, my friend, as we come to a close, is there anything you want to plug, shouts you'd like to give, places people can find you or your content, maybe even?
No, I am an international man of mystery, and therefore I have nothing to plug, but...
You lied about your occupation, didn't you? You CIA son of a bitch.
You got me. But I would encourage anyone out there, if you have even an ounce of creative spirit, give into it for a second, because you don't know where it'll take you.
Well, thank you, Julian, for being my guest today, and a special thanks to my editor, Richard Ashford, and my composer, Joshua Gibbons. And thank you, yes, you listening at home, wherever you found time to appreciate this. Time is the most precious commodity we have, and I appreciate you spending yours with us. And if you enjoyed this podcast, or just the new changes, please subscribe, like, or just share it with a friend. Every little bit helps. Or if you already have and are out of episodes to listen to, don't worry. We put out a new episode every Monday at midnight on SoundCloud, YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes at Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves podcast. And a very special thanks are due to our patrons, Sabella Yellow. And if you'd like to join said illustrious ranks and have your name read aloud, just head on over to patreon.com/Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves podcast. And do remember, folks, if days are numbered and songs are sung, at the end of the day, I think we've all won. So please do stick around, because great things have only just begun.